Dr. Lila Heron's office looked exactly the way an anxious mind wanted the world to look. No sharp angles, taupe walls the color of oatmeal, a quiet white noise generator positioned between two ficus trees that had never known anything as violent as a gust of wind. Clients stepped off the elevator on the 12th floor of the Loop Medical Annex, inhaled the lavender diffusers, and believed that help was not only possible but imminent. Every Wednesday at 4:30, Mason Gray arrived, freshly scoured by Chicago wind, coat flapping, cheeks pink. He signed the tablet offered by the receptionist, drank the obligatory paper cup of cucumber water, and listened for the click of the inner office door. By the time Dr. Heron greeted him, he was ready to surrender. "Let's get comfortable," she always said, and Mason settled into the recliner, eyes fluttering shut as she lowered the lights. He'd tried everything: beta blockers, yoga, Stoic philosophy podcasts, but nothing quieted the volcanic churn in his chest like Dr. Heron's voice dropping into its hypnotic register, warm and even, as though the syllables came from inside his own rib cage. "I'm going to count back from 10, she said, "and with each number you'll feel lighter, as though your anxiety is not a mountain but a shadow, one that shrinks beneath a rising sun." Her script ended, as it always did, with the new mantra she'd adopted last autumn after attending an online seminar. "And when you hear the words lucky ladder, you'll remember how effortlessly you can climb out of anxious thought and into calm confidence. Lucky ladder, lucky ladder." Mason never questioned the phrase. It sounded like a child's board game. In session, it filled him with gentle buoyancy, the sensation of a hand on his back during a steep ascent. And afterward, those two words floated through his mind whenever the CTA screeched, whenever his editor barked, whenever the world bared its teeth. An hour with Dr. Heron cost as much as 3 tanks of gas, but it purchased silence in his skull. And to Mason, that felt like survival. What neither he nor Dr. Heron knew was that the script, downloaded from a private hypnotherapy forum, had been tampered with. Inside its lulling paragraphs, between soft admonitions to breathe, nestled a second command, layered so thinly that even an attentive listener heard only vowels stitched into the white space. The hidden instruction tethered itself deep in the limbic system, waiting for its moment of bloom. When the trigger phrase, lucky ladder, was heard outside the therapy room, loudly, publicly, undeniably, it would split open the client's calm facade, sluicing aggression through veins that had recently learned complacency. The person hearing the phrase would feel the sudden, irresistible need to smash, strike, shout, bite, burn. It was a post-hypnotic landmine. And Dr. Heron, with her impeccable reputation and endless referrals, dutifully planted it in more than 400 Chicagoans over the course of 7 months. The man who doctored the script called himself Proxy Rook. Few knew his name. Fewer still knew why he despised tranquility. He believed modern life demanded a correction, an uprising of raw, ungovernable rage that would expose the fragility of order. To Proxy, the anxious were ideal foot soldiers. They already felt the world might collapse. All he needed to do was give them a time and place to push. That time and place arrived on a Tuesday night in March, during a live broadcast of the nation's oldest game show, Win or Lose It, celebrating its 50th season. Ratings had waned, so producers retooled the final round, adding a new gimmick, the lucky ladder. Contestants would climb a giant illuminated staircase, answering trivia questions on each step for escalating cash prizes. The host, Colt Bramwell, hawk-haired, toothsome, gleefully obnoxious, reminded viewers every commercial break, "Stay tuned for the lucky ladder. You won't want to miss it." Proxy Rook had infiltrated a writers' meeting months earlier under the guise of a freelance consultant, championing his new catchphrase with the fervor of a man chasing residuals. When the producers adopted it wholesale, Proxy scheduled his own celebration, Tuesday, 8:57 p.m. Central, just before the 11 o'clock news when the final round, and the words, would broadcast simultaneously to living rooms, bars, phones, tablets, taxis, and any place anxiety sufferers might seek end-of-day numbness. He did not require violent revolution. He needed only proof that society could be torn open with a sentence. The footage, he believed, would go viral, a time-lapse of civilization fraying at the edges. 2 hours before air, Mason Gray perched in the corner booth of McGalligan's pub, his notebook open, waiting for a source who would likely cancel. Outside, sleet painted the windows milky white. Mason had not seen Dr. Heron in 3 weeks, but Lucky Ladder pulsed faintly beneath his thoughts like a ringtone from another room. The phrase usually calmed him, yet now it crackled in his jaw. He tried to focus on the story. Misallocated union dues, a story big enough to nudge him from Metro column inches to page 1. But the air smelled metallic. His knuckles felt tight around the pen. A TV hung above the bar, tuned to win or lose it. Neon colors flickered across glasses of Guinness. Mason never watched the show, but tonight the noise soothed his dread of meeting the source. He half listened to Colt Bramwell banter with contestants. The bartender, a broad-shouldered woman with a shamrock tattoo, leaned over. "You drinking or nursing that water forever?" "Waiting," Mason said. "Sorry. You let me know." On screen, the second commercial break ended, and Bramwell strutted back under confetti cannons. "All right, America, you waited, and here it is. The moment we've all been dreaming of, the Lucky Ladder." Mason's eyes lifted at the phrase, the way a dog lifts its head at a whistle. A peculiar pressure ballooned behind his sternum. His pulse hammered in his ears. Without thinking, he squeezed the pen so hard the plastic barrel splintered, ink seeping into his palm. Around him, several patrons stiffened. A man in a Blackhawks jacket rose from his stool, glass cracking in his fist. An older woman at the dartboard yanked the darts and flung them across the room, snarling like a cornered cat. Chairs screeched, voices sharpened, and the bartender yelled, "Everybody calm down!" even as she vaulted the counter, brandishing a bottle intended for the first person who disagreed. Mason's panic flared, but something heavier overrode it, an urge not just to flee, but to lash out. He imagined shoving the bartender, kicking the TV, flipping tables. His veins thrummed with certainty. Violence was the only honest response to an unbearable world. Lucky Ladder, he thought. Lucky Ladder. The phrase kept looping, the same one Dr. Heron used, the same one that was supposed to still the grinding gears of his mind. Instead, it revved them red hot. Mason staggered to the restroom, fists jammed in his pockets to keep from swinging. He splashed water on his face, stared at himself, pale, panting, pupils saucer-wide. He'd experienced panic attacks. This was different. This was purpose. He caught snippets of chaos spilling from the bar, someone smashing bottles, chairs thrown like javelins, a woman screaming that her boyfriend had lost his mind. In the hallway, a busboy cowered, blood dotting his apron where a dish shattered against his forearm. Mason pressed his palms to his temples. What the hell's happening? Lucky Ladder. Dr. Heron. The hypnotherapy. The phrase. Did she? Impossible. Yet the link was undeniable. He, her patient, had heard the words on TV and felt homicidal. Multiply that by every patient she'd treated. How many? Dozens. Hundreds. A siren dopplered outside. The busboy whimpered as the light strobed red-blue through the frosted door. Mason's journalist brain kicked in. If this isn't isolated, the city will ignite. Maybe the country. He needed information, actual numbers, and he needed to find Dr. Heron. He slipped from the pub's side exit, navigating alleys toward the loop. Snow slanted sideways, muffling streets. People shouted from windows, sirens converged, but Mason kept moving, hailing a cab whose driver looked terrified yet grateful for a fare away from Wrigleyville's sudden riot. "Medical Annex, Lake and Franklin," Mason said, voice hoarse. "You see what's going on?" the driver asked, eyes flicking to the mirror. "Phones blowing up, videos of people beating each other on the red line. Something in the water?" Mason didn't answer. He checked Twitter. Hashtags scrolled. Ras, Lucky Ladder, Rasat Live Rage, Jas Chowis, or he whine or lose it. Clips showed suburbia gone feral. Mall kiosks overturned, neighbors clawing at each other. A reporter in Milwaukee ducked a flying trash can. Similar outbreaks surfaced in Austin, Philadelphia, Boise, anywhere the show aired live. 14 minutes later, Mason sprinted through the annex lobby. The security guard, a retiree who usually waved politely, now clutched a broken coffee mug as makeshift shiv. He glared at Mason but let him pass. The 12th floor hall reeked of air freshener tinged with sweat. Dr. Heron's door was ajar. Inside, she huddled behind her desk, phone pressed to her ear, trembling. Her assistant sobbed in a corner, bruised lip bleeding. A toppled lamp lay across the reception couch. Dr. Heron looked up. "Mason? Thank God. I tried calling 911, but the circuits are jammed. People are stampeding on the street." He shut the door. "It's your clients. Me too. Anyone you repeated that stupid phrase to." Her eyes clouded. "The phrase is a calming anchor." "No, it's a tripwire." Mason paced. "I almost attacked a stranger. Do you understand how many people you may have hypnotized with it?" She blinked, shook her head. 438. Mason froze. Jesus, 438 potential berserkers in Chicago alone. Multiply by other therapists downloading the same script. "I wrote that script," she insisted, voice breaking. "Did you?" Mason pulled the laptop from her desk, opened the file. Calm Climb V3.8. Hidden beneath normal text was darker gray lettering. Dr. Heron's hand flew to her mouth. "I never saw that." Mason believed her. "The code used steganography. You'd need to highlight to read it." "Who shared it with you?" "A forum moderator, username PR Balance. He said he refined the suggestion for better retention." "PR," Mason said. "Proxy Rook, maybe. He engineered tonight." She gripped the desk. "We have to cancel. It's already aired. We need an antidote. Undo the suggestion." Dr. Heron considered. "A counter-trigger might work, a phrase linking relaxation to pacifism, overriding aggression. But broadcasting it, networks won't trust some raving hypnotherapist." Mason's phone vibrated. His editor, texting, "City burning. Get pics." He silenced it. Who would network executives believe? Dr. Heron exhaled. "The game show host. If Bramwell says it during the West Coast feed, millions will hear. Some clients beyond Chicago too. Worth trying. West Coast tape-delayed broadcast starts in..." Mason glanced at the clock. 36 minutes. We need to convince Bramwell. Station's on Wacker Drive." Dr. Heron grabbed her coat. "Let's go." Downstairs, streets churned. People punched car windows, screamed at lampposts, pummeled each other. A masked cyclist hurled a Molotov into a coffee shop. The smell of burning milk and upholstery followed them like a curse. They commandeered a city ambulance, crew unconscious inside after attacking each other. Dr. Heron navigated lights and siren. On the radio, emergency channels crackled, dispatchers begging for reinforcements they didn't have. Mason held laptop, drafting counterscript. "What phrase?" he asked. "Something common enough, but not on tonight's teleprompter," she said. "It must include instructions to relax, release aggression peacefully. Remember compassion. How about settle silver?" "Too odd," Mason said. A car exploded nearby. Shockwave rattled windows. "We need a phrase Colt can slip in naturally, maybe linked to the show's brand. Share the prize." "Yes, share the prize," she repeated, eyes narrowing. 2 steps. Hear, share the prize, feel warmth dissolve anger, seek safety. They screeched to the network lot. Abandoned security booth still swinging. Inside, production assistant's fortress stacked filing cabinets against doors while studio gophers taped down glass shards. Colt Bramwell, hair out of place for the first time in history, paced with a clipboard, yelling about insurance liabilities. When he saw Mason and Dr. Heron, he sneered. "Sets closed to civilians." Mason flashed his press badge. "You want to survive tonight? Listen." Dr. Heron stepped forward, voice brittle. "Mr. Bramwell, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. Your Lucky Ladder segment is causing violent outbursts across time zones." He laughed, but Mason shoved the phone under his chin, showing footage. Brawls, fires, paramedics overrun. Colt paled. "I just say what's on the cue cards. Don't blame me." "We don't," Mason said. "We need you. On the Western feed, during your intro, say the words 'share the prize', then repeat this line exactly." He handed the revised script. Colt scanned it. "This some voodoo?" "It's neuro-linguistic deprogramming," Dr. Heron said. "You'll be planting new instructions. If we don't, the Pacific time zone erupts next." Studio lights flickered. The director signaled they were 90 seconds from rolling. Colt swallowed. "Fine, but if this backfires..." "Nothing could be worse than inaction," Mason said. In the control room, Mason and Dr. Heron watched monitors. A recorded version of the earlier show would feed westward, but Colt's pre-taped wraparound segments went live. He adjusted earpiece, looked straight into camera. "Good evening, West Coast. Before we dive into tonight's game, a quick reminder to share the prize, because generosity is the real jackpot. When we share the prize, we discover calm inside ourselves, letting go of anger and holding on to kindness for everyone around us. So share the prize, feel that warmth, and know you're safe and peaceful." He winked. The camera red light winked back, and producers cut to commercial. Silence stretched. Dr. Heron gripped the counter. Mason's heartbeat rattled in his throat. Too late to call it back. They didn't wait long for data. Twitter trends shifted. Lucky Ladder decayed. New posts. "I suddenly feel okay. Anyone else?" And in Vegas, a group hug replaced a fistfight. In Seattle, a commuter set down the brick he'd lifted. LAPD radio reported hostility decreasing. Dr. Heron sagged, tears gleaming. "It's working." Mason exhaled, body trembling with leftover adrenaline. Outside, sirens softened. Smoke still curled above rooftops, but the city's pulse decelerated. 2 hours later, police regained intersections. Makeshift triage lines formed. Mason texted his editor, "Have exclusive on cause and cure. Need 2K words? Front page." The reply, "Yes, God, yes." In a dim break room, Dr. Heron sipped black coffee. "I'll surrender my license," she said quietly. "You were a pawn," Mason replied. "But you saved more people tonight than some doctors do in a lifetime." "I'll still testify," she insisted. "We have to find the man who did this." "We will," Mason said, opening his laptop. Proxy Rook wouldn't stay hidden. Not with every investigative journalist suddenly interested. Mason planned to lead that hunt. He began typing. At 8:57 p.m. Tuesday, the word lucky lost its innocence. Outside the studio, television screens now looped Colt Bramwell's new mantra. Share the prize scrolled across tickers, banner ads, LED billboards. The phrase seeped into earbuds and waiting rooms, a digital balm on the nation's nerves. Proxy Rook, watching from a rented basement in Cleveland, hurled his laptop across the room, fury swallowing his triumph. He'd proven society could be cracked open. He hadn't accounted for society patching itself so quickly. But the night was long, and he still had scripts on forums, still had therapists hungry for shortcuts. Revolution, he reminded himself, was iterative. Yet somewhere in the snow-dusted streets of Chicago, Mason Gray filed his story, copy editing with steady hands. He paused to listen. Distant shouting had softened to conversations, sirens to idling engines. In that moment he felt a distinct, gentle hush, the collective exhale of millions spared from themselves. Tomorrow would bring reckoning, resignations, think pieces, lawsuits, maybe prison sentences. But tonight, anxiety's strangest offspring, aggression, had been coaxed back into its kennel with nothing more than the right words. Language had wounded. Language had healed. And for Mason, that truth sounded almost like hope.